What happened in qualifying for the
Belgian
Grand Prix? This video is sponsored by the F1 exhibition at Excel London. Immerse yourself in the stories and history of the British Grand Prix brought to life in an exhibition partnership with the Silverstone Museum. You can experience what it's like to sit behind the wheel of an F1 car and drive virtual timed laps of Silverstone on state-of-the-art racing simulators. Reckon you've got faster lights-out reaction times than an F1 driver? Test your starting grid reaction time with an interactive panel and also get a glimpse into how F1 teams develop different elements for each season's new car. It opens from the 23rd of August at the London Excel. Tickets are on sale now at f1exhibition.com. Hello everybody and welcome back to the B1 podcast with Matt and not Tommy. Tommy has disappeared into doing other real life things, which means he is not around for today. But instead we have someone with, well, quite frankly, on paper, a lot more wheel knowledge because he has actually raced in F3 and just generally knows a lot about Formula 1. So we got him in here today. It's Mr. Max Futrell. Max, how you doing, my friend? Thank you for coming on the podcast at such short notice.
Nervous. Never done a podcast before. Well, maybe once.
Oh, is this your first podcast?
Yes, I think so.
Oh,
I mean, someone will probably fight. Maybe I did. I think it's the first one I've done properly sat down talking like this. Yeah.
You do a lot of streaming, so it's not
Yeah.
it's not much different. It's like live, but not, and that's basically it, really.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about qualifying today. We're going to dive into obviously what was a very wet, slippery, no wet to dry, sadly, which is what we were kind of both praying for, weren't we, Max? We wanted that excellent sort of slippery
Wanted to dry up at the end.
Yeah.
Especially because I don't know, everyone else was quite far off Max, so make it a bit closer.
They were indeed, but we still got some good results, which we'll get on to shortly. But let's start with Q1, where Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Sargent and Zhou were the bottom five. Now, my first thoughts looking at those five are just how even with these crazy conditions, do we still have a Sargent Zhou back row? That's the thing for me, where I just go, come on, guys. You can't blame your apparatus when it's these kind of conditions. It's the great leveller. Where do you see, Max, Sargent and Zhou? Why are they still at the back?
It's a tough one. I mean, I know both of them very well, so lads, if you're watching, you know what I mean. I don't know.
Do the job. You've got to do the job.
I think conditions like that are very tough, and I think both of them, I would say, are lacking a bit of confidence in general anyway. They've had some tough results, so that starts to weigh down on you. And then, obviously, I think Logan's had quite a few incidents this year, and those conditions are a very high chance of having a crash. So I just think they were both just lacking confidence out there. That's what I would probably presume it is. I mean, it's very tough as it is. Plus, when you don't have that full confidence in yourself and maybe the car, it makes it 10 times harder. So that's probably what I presume will be their issue.
There's me sat there on my in my chair saying, how could they possibly be on the back row? But still, it's not the best for Sargent or for Zhou. Zhou especially, I think, who's trying desperately to stay on the grid. You need a good performance, and it's just not coming.
No, and then you start trying too hard, over driving, and it's just this downward spiral of frustration when you know you can do a lot better. But again, this is F1, it's brutal, and simply they both needed to do a better job, to be honest.
They did. And of course, Tsunoda was out in Q1. And there's a question from BallR004 who asks, with Yuki getting a new engine, why was he so slow? Now, for this, I think you can very much put it down to the fact that, well, he has a 60-place grid penalty, I think it is. So he's actually starting in the middle sector of Hungary. So there's not really any point of him going past Q1 anyway. But as you mentioned there, Max, the conditions are difficult. He's not going to risk the car to get through to Q2 to only try and help his teammate with a slipstream when they're not slipstreaming anyway in these conditions, are they?
No. Again, it's probably risk. He's probably spoke to the team about it as well. There's no point putting the car on the wall today when he's not realistically going to start very high up. And they don't have unbelievable pace to kind of carve through the field anyway. So they know they're in for a tough Sunday as it is. And it's not worth kind of doing millions of euros of damage.
Let's go to Q2 then, where the conditions didn't really change too much. Maybe a little bit drier, but nothing too crazy. And it was Albon, Gasly, Ricciardo, Bottas and Stroll the 5 that were knocked out there and didn't progress to Q3. I think one of the big things to talk about is Daniel Ricciardo. Miggles Von comes in with a question: can we please talk about VCARB's questionable, to put it nicely, strategy for Danny Rick the last 3 weekends? We won't go into Hungary and things like that. Let's focus in on, again, he was looking good. I very roguely put him in my top 5 as a little P5 masterclass from Danny Rick. And at times, he was looking very good, but they just got the timing wrong with that final run of his, and he was finished with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think it was more down to timing. I think Daniel definitely had the pace to get into Q3. I think a lot of people did, especially the guys that got eliminated in Q2. That was definitely a lot more on the timing of doing your lap right at the end again. Because Daniel was hovering in top 5 most of the sessions, so no reason why he couldn't get into Q3 in my opinion. But just, again, unlucky with the timing. If you get it wrong, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, very questionable from RB. Albon was so close to knocking out Perez, who was actually going to start on the front row of the grid tomorrow. Only 0.004 of a second between him and Perez, I think it was, which would have been a very naughty little qualifying from Alex. And you do expect that kind of performance when it is a bit more changeable and the Williams can get in the mix. I mean, let's not forget, only a few years ago, George Russell sticking one of the greatest laps ever in a quite literal dustbin. And Albon was close to making it through to Q3 as well. But we didn't see too much from him. It was just close. It was a great lap, but 0.004 of a second. It's not...
I mean, a nearly 2 minute lap and 0.004 of a second, you can't even get bothered about it. Otherwise, you'll lose your mind.
Yeah, it's another talking point as well, is where we think teams have gone with their setups. You would think most, if not all, have gone for dry setups, but we can discuss that shortly. But then, so of course, we mentioned Gasly, who was looking great as well. I think maybe even slightly disappointed with a 12th place in the Alpine, because they came alive in those first few quali sessions.
Yeah, it was similar to Daniel, kind of always in that top 5 whenever he did his lap and just ended up 12th. I don't even remember how, but he was literally in the top 3 most of the time. And then the checkered was out and he was gone. So I think he will be frustrated with that.
Well. We're like, Gasly, come on.
Every time he crossed the line, they had that raw pace. But again, I think, as I've said multiple times now, that timing of just getting your lap in at the right moment in these conditions is crucial.
Okay, let's go to Q3 then, the big one. And the order. Okay, we're going to say Max Verstappen finished first, but chuck that one in the bin, because Charles Leclerc is going to start from first tomorrow. Then Perez, Hamilton, Norris, Piastri, Russell, Sainz, Alonso and Ocon. We're actually going to throw to Tommy, who sent us a little audio clip. I haven't actually heard it yet, but here it is for all of you wonderful lot.
Hello, I'm here to give Tommy's tasty thoughts, as Matt told me to record a quick little bit of info for the pod. My thoughts on qualifying was very non-surprised to see Logan Sargent P19 and Zhou Guanyu P20. Sergio Perez did a great job, hopefully locking in a biggest good surprise for him. And congratulations to Charles Leclerc on an inherited pole position. I hope Matt wasn't too smug in the podcast, but Max Verstappen will pass him within 10 laps tomorrow anyway, so it doesn't matter. So thank you for hearing my thoughts, and I'll be back on Twitch tomorrow to enjoy the race with you all. Goodbye.
Okay, let's now go to the first question from F1 Lizzie. What happened to the McLarens? Was it the weather or bad tyre strategy in Q3? Now, I think this is probably a team, and of course, Max, you have an allegiance to McLaren. You did have a McLaren hat on. Is that the same one, or have you changed it?
I've just turned it around.
Stream?
It's a McLaren hat, yes.
I don't actually think we can blame much more than the McLarens just not being quick. There was not one point, apart from maybe a Piastri lap in Q1, where we went, McLaren are actually in the fight here. They just lacked pace.
Yeah, they lacked pace the whole way. Normally, if you've got that raw pace, whenever they stick that lap in, they're right up there, and you can just tell. But there was never really a moment I was like, yeah, they could pull this round. They just didn't have it today. And I don't know if that's because they're more focused on the race tomorrow, maybe running a lot less downforce today. I don't know how it works with the wet. If it's wet, are they allowed to change the setup for tomorrow?
No. So it's all dialed
What
in.
I'm going to guess then is they're running less aero than most, preparing for that race tomorrow. which would make sense because I do believe the car in the dry is one of the fastest. So to see them really struggling today was a bit strange. So I'm going to guess they're focusing on tomorrow.
Next question comes in from Shayod28. Do you think Checo will be able to translate his P2 to a good finish tomorrow, and will he stay after the summer break? If so, well, this is an interesting one because I will hands up, hands down, wherever, say that Checo did a fantastic job in qualifying today. Max Verstappen is in a league of his own in these conditions. That is, I think you put anyone else in that second Red Bull seat, they're going to struggle against Max in those conditions. But Checo, to be on the front row of the grid tomorrow, has got a fantastic chance of being in the hunt for the victory. His dry pace in free practice didn't look great, and he is still lacking to Max, but at least he's there. He's not 15th. He's on the front row.
Yeah, finally he's going to be involved on the first few laps, but I do think the Ferrari and the Red Bull will struggle to keep the McLarens. And
Why would you say that? Why would you throw the Ferrari in there, Max?
I just think that
it's your first spot on the show, and you're already slandering that Charles.
I just think those McLarens are very quick in the dry, like we've seen recently, and I don't believe they're in the same race.
Wow, not the same race. Okay, cool. Just crush every last little bit of delirium and hope I might have had.
I would love for Charles to do well, but
win. I mean, say it.
I would like Charles to win. It would be very cool to see. There you go, Matt. I'll invoice you for that one.
There. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know. I just think the McLarens are a lot faster in the dry, and I think we'll see that tomorrow as the race goes on.
Now, a lot of people came in with the question of what lap will Max Verstappen lead the Belgian Grand Prix. Now, I think with this one, actually, if he looks at that qualifying classification, he goes, well, this is dreamland for him because he doesn't have the two McLarens, which undoubtedly are the quickest in the dry at the front. They're going to have to dispatch of Hamilton, Perez and Leclerc before they can start to stretch their legs. And Max, he's only like 6 places behind, 5-6 places depending on who you look at, behind the two. So this is almost ideal for Max, that he can almost, if he gets a great start, he'll be able to see the McLarens. But I think that this is game on for Max now, for sure.
It is game on, and you need to remember Charles has got probably a nearly 3-kilometre run up until the first braking point after turn 1.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I think it's going to be very interesting. Again, very hard to predict. There's so many people kind of out of place. The McLarens are quick. They've got, let's say, a car or two ahead that haven't been on as fast a form recently, so that'll make it interesting how fast they can kind of clear those. And then you got Max that's going to charge through and undoubtedly be fast, even if the Red Bull isn't the fastest car tomorrow.
Next question from Annalyn M. How happy are you, Matt? And do you think Leclerc has a good chance of winning tomorrow? Now, I thought I'd throw that one in there, obviously. How happy was I? Well, before I pressed record on this podcast, 100% happiness. And then Max reminded me of all of the things that could go wrong tomorrow. Now it's at about 40%. But no, I do not believe, with even 1% of my body, that Charles Leclerc will win tomorrow. He and Ferrari pulled a blinder today in this qualifying session. They decided to go on old inters at the beginning of the session and then whack on a fresh set of inters at the end. And then he put in a stunning lap to take what is obviously going to be pole position tomorrow. So I am by no means thinking that Ferrari will have the pace tomorrow to hold on, especially being on pole, as you've already mentioned, Max, and having that lovely straight of slipstream from behind the 19 cars saying, thank you very much, Charles. If he is still leading after lap 1, it will be a miracle. But look, I will see that scarlet red Ferrari on the front row for the God knows how many time. But it's not going to be a non-conversion. It's going to be Max Verstappen's pole, which means I'm fine. There's no curse. There's no curse for Charles. Maybe he will win. This is the only time when
they pulled a blinder. I did not expect that today, so anything can happen tomorrow.
Sure, that's what we're going to go in with.
So less of a miracle chance.
Yes, yeah, fair enough. That is it. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to this qualifying wrap-up to the P1 podcast. We'll be live tomorrow, as always, on Twitch at Matt P1 Tommy. Big shout-out to Max Futrell for stepping in last minute.
Thank you for having me.
To do your potentially first-ever podcast. How was it for you, mate? Was it all right?
It was good. I enjoyed it. What?
Great
talking points.
I'm going to throw a final thoughts at you.
Go on,
that's
then.
What I do with
Go
Tommy.
on.
So, Max, what are your final thoughts?
On what?
Exactly that. Whatever.
Is this? Oh, is that what you
that's
do?
What I give and Tommy's brain
My
just
final
shuts down.
thoughts is he shuts down as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having that moment. Final thoughts. I think it's a very exciting race tomorrow. Obviously, I want to see Lando come through and do well. Be cool to see Charles fight, see if he can hold that P1, and let's see what Max ends up doing. You never know. He's inevitable.
All right, prediction, Max, where does he finish tomorrow?
I think Verstappen's on the podium.
Yeah. P3?
I think he's on the podium. P3.
Okay, P3. I reckon he's gonna win. I just
It's going
feel
to be
it.
one of the
I feel
McLarens,
it.
potentially Lewis and Max.
Okay, here we go then. See you soon. See you tomorrow. Thank you, Max, again. And yeah, what a race tomorrow. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.